Hey guys, what's going on? We got another Enhancement Shaman PvE video. We're doing a plus 23 Waycrest Manor with some of my buddies. But instead of going over dungeon mechanics and stuff, I just wanted to basically ask how your Mythic Plus experiences go. I've heard a lot that the pug community is very toxic in a sense. They're very geared towards Raider IO and everything like that. I haven't done much for going on my own, and if I am, I usually make my own group rather than pug into something. Or if I am pugging into something, it's usually like a 20 just to get my vault keys done. So, and I mean, again, I'm 3100 IO, somewhere around there, so it doesn't take much for me to get into a 20, but I also haven't tried pucking into anything higher. And again, like my alt characters, I usually just create the group or run with my friends anyways, because pugging groups I know is kind of a troublesome topic and stuff like that. I know IO is kind of, in a way, toxic, but also it does work to an advantage as well. Now, the player base does take it to an extreme, as well as meta comps as well, like things like that. The way I look at it, IO and stuff for my groups is typically, it's not necessarily the number of which you have, it's what keys have you done. Like if I'm queuing up a 22 or a 23, I'm not going to invite somebody that hasn't done a 20 of at least one of the keys. You know what I mean? I don't care if you don't have all your keys done, or you're missing a couple on Tyrant, or maybe you just run keys just for the vault and that's it. You don't go to push, you just do your one a week 20 maybe, and that's it. I look at that. I also look maybe at your raid prog if that's all you have. Like if you're 9 out of 9 heroic in week 2 and you're looking to do a 20, I'd probably invite you. There's a good chance of that. But like I said, like if somebody is like only at plus 10s or something and they're trying like, oh man, I'm ready for a 20, chances are you're not going to get invited. And it is what it is. I mean, if you queued up a key, you're not going to give somebody a chance at a 20 that only has a plus 10 as their highest. There's no chance. No matter what you say, there's no chance. But like what I'm trying to say is IO score isn't everything. If that's all you're looking at, then I mean, you're probably not going to get the best groups, because you can reach 2500 IO without timing a single key. I mean, it is possible. It's a bit difficult, but it is possible with the way it's set up. Now, you can also reach 2500 with 1 week done, and that's it. I have reached, well, I don't know about, yeah, you could technically reach 2500. I think that's plus 25s on 1 week. I have reached 2K in 1 week on characters because I've done the 20s, but that was with the help of friends. But I mean, in the end, I had the gear ready and was ready for the week. But you know, a lot of people say it's extremely toxic to have the IO score. And I mean, yes and no. I think it's needed to understand where people are at in the game. But it's the community that turns it into an issue. That's what happens is you have these players that believe strictly the higher IO score these people have, the better that they are. But sometimes it's not the case. I mean, there's also the meta comp where I see a lot of people doing like 12 to 15s, and they're like, I need a demon hunter, I need an augvoker, I need a fire mage. Well, why? You're doing a 15. You're not pushing these god tier keys like these guys in the MDI or the top pushers pushing like 30s to 31s. I mean, you don't need that comp. Anything basically works. If you're making your own group though, do look at crowd control and CC effects. Like if you're running a demonology warlock, for example, and then you have like a mage, you're going to want to either bring a demon hunter or a shaman, because one, shaman brings a massive kick with a 12-second kick, as well as a lot of crowd control using, I sucked there, using thunderstorm, static totem, you know, all that. They also bring a purge and stuff like that. There's huge utility uses, whereas a demonology warlock, they do bring a lot of damage, but they don't bring like a huge amount of crowd control. They do have shadow fury, but they bring a very slow interrupt, as well as a mage. They bring a lot of damage and stuff like that, a bit of utility, like group utility, such as mass barrier and stuff like that, but they also bring a slow interrupt. So you have to look at, okay, what kind of interrupts do I need? What kind of crowd control do I need? What kind of tank do I have? If you got like a paladin tank, then I wouldn't worry too much on interrupts, because your paladin's going to probably do most of them just with his Avenger shield. But if you have like, I don't know, a prot warrior, you probably want like a death knight in the group just for the grips and stuff like that, just getting the utility out there. Prot warrior does bring a lot of interrupts and stuff like that. Maybe like a demon, if you have a demon hunter tank, you want to focus more on a magic side of a group just to make maximum benefit of that thing, their demonic brand or whatever. And the same with a brewmaster. If you have a brewmaster tank, gear, or a mistweaver even, gear towards maximizing the amount of damage you can get out of that. That's the thing. So you want like physical damage dealers. If you have a demon hunter, you want to focus on magic dealers. As you can see, our group comp, we have a demon hunter tank. So we have a lot of magical damage. As an enhanced shaman, 90% of our damage is magical. So we're benefiting the full amount from that. We have a paladin who brings Blessing of Summer, which, I don't know, works on everybody, I guess. Og Evoker brings a good solid CC and stuff. And the CC from a Demonology Warlock is kind of not all there, but he brings a lot of AoE damage effects. He does have some niche CC and stuff like that, but the Demon Hunter also brings a massive AoE silence. That's why they're up there as S tiers, because they have all this utility that works. So group comps aren't just, oh, I want the highest damage dealers possible. That's not it. That's not what you want. You want to look at how the group works together. Like generally when I'm in a group, I usually have like a Fury Warrior, as you've probably seen in previous videos, Vigrim. He's one of my good friends that I run keys with. We're generally together when we run keys, and I bring the utility. He brings quite a bit of damage. He also brings that physical damage buff from Battle Shout, and he brings Commanding Shout, which, or Rally, I guess, as most people would know it, which is a AoE buff. He also has Spell Reflect, so he can do some niche things with that, and stuff like that. So focus on, if you are building your group, focus on what the group can do, not just damage. If you're just focused on damage, you're not going to get very far in the Mythic Plus area. Now, when you're applying for groups, it is quite difficult to figure out what group should I apply for and what do I bring to this team. So there are some add-ons that tell you, okay, what does this group have that would make me more of an asset than anybody else, right? So if the whole group doesn't have a lust and you're a shaman, you're going to get a pretty big priority on that list. Another reason to bring a shaman is generally just for the consistency in damage. Like if you're running an Everbloom, you're probably not going to be a huge priority just because you can't bring that massive AoE cleave like a Demon Hunter or a Rep Paladin and stuff like that, right? So you're probably not on that high list. But most of the other dungeons where pulls are generally like 6, maybe 8 targets, you're going to have a pretty high priority list for just damage. But you don't just bring damage. You bring Static Totem and you bring Thunderstorm. You bring a very good kick. You do bring a little bit of group utility with Poison Cleanse. So if it's Afflicted Week, you're going to be a high priority as well. If it's Corporeal Week, you're probably going to be a pretty good priority. But as for group utility, you can bring Stone Skin Totem, but there is only one boss that makes use of it, which is from Blackrock Hold, the third boss there. His smash, that's the only one that works it. Everything else is magic, so it's kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. But again, if you're building the group or you're applying for group, think about the team comp, not just, oh, this guy's got so much IO, let's go. It's about crowd control. It's about dealing with the mobs, all the casts and stuff. I have been in groups before where they didn't invite much CC, and I wasn't on my Enhanced Shaman. I think, I don't remember what I was, but it just went terribly. Like, casts were going off, everything was just wrong. We kept wiping on every pack and the group fell apart. It's going to happen. I mean, not every dungeon's going to go perfectly as you feel. And pugs, again, you got 5 random people that just came together and now we're doing a key. You can't expect every key to go extremely well. But then again, on the mechanics side of things, if people are doing, in my opinion, anything above like I think a 15 or higher, you should understand mechanics, what to kick, and how the boss works. There shouldn't really be a reason to why you don't know that. There's so many guides out there that can tell you. I mean, if you've already done like a 12 and stuff, you can already figure out what the boss does. Now, if you're doing 2s to 5s and that's it, you're probably not going to know any of the mechanics. You're just going to understand the layout of the dungeon. And that's kind of fine. You're understanding that. But you really can't, you really can't learn a dungeon from a +2, a +5, or even a +8 for that matter. The bosses die so fast, it's not even worth trying to understand. But you can get a glimpse of what it looks like, right? And then if you're doing the 15, stick to them until you understand the bosses and stuff. Like, just figure it out. Try really hard to get those down pat. And that way, you're not going into these dungeons as a hindrance, or you're not going to get yelled at. I mean, you have to figure them out at some time, but I'm going to let you know, doing heroic dungeons or +2 to 5s, those aren't helping you with learning the dungeons. You want to look up a guide. You want to do that kind of thing. You want to understand the boss and why. Because in a +2, the boss is going to be dead within 10 seconds. And that's just because most players doing a +2 are not necessarily new, but a lot of them are just alts, and they're just going to smash the boss. And a lot of people understand how fast the bosses can die. And even right now, oh yeah, the boss reset here randomly. We don't know why still, but it was really, really weird. I lost track of what I was thinking. Crap. But doing those low keys, they don't really help. And if you're sticking to the 15s and 16s and that's all you run, you need to push higher to try and understand. And I get it. If your damage isn't up to par, then you need to think about, okay, what am I doing wrong? How can I maximize? It's not just about popping your cooldowns and going ham. It's timing your cooldowns correctly and stuff like that. As an enhancement shaman, generally, if the mobs are at 20%, I'm not going to spend a primordial wave on it and lightning bolt them all to death because I'm not going to have anything for the next pack. And if they're at 20%, well, they're probably going to fall over in a couple seconds anyways, right? So it's always best to think about, okay, what's coming up next? Do I have lust for this boss? And how long is it going to take us to get to this boss? What kind of week is it? Is it Tyrant or Fortified? Do I need to focus more on the trash mobs, or do I need to focus on the bosses? Like, those are questions you have to think about depending on what class you play. Does your build change based on each week? Does that mean your playstyle changes? Does that mean what you're focusing is different? You know what I mean? It's all these things are thoughts that you have to realize if you want to push keys. And on the meta side of things, you can't really think, oh man, if I'm playing a Demon Hunter, I'm going to be God tier. Well, Demon Hunter's not really a great thing because, in my opinion, they're pretty straightforward to understand and play. But maybe like a Fire Mage, in this case, it is I don't know if it's still considered. It's always been a really, really high priority pick for the top dogs. But a fire mage, it's not really that straightforward. I mean, yes, you do a lot of bursts, but you have to think about when to use combustion and stuff like that. You have to think about when to maximize. And your tank also has to understand how to pull for you. So doing pug groups as a fire mage is going to suck. Because unless your tank knows, okay, I got a fire mage, I have to make sure I'm pulling stuff on top of the boss to maximize his damage. Or I have to get this big pull because he has combustion because it's going to nuke the entire group. Like, those are things that people need to think about. And if you're doing 15s and stuff and this guy is asking specifically for a demon hunter, og, and fire mage, chances are you don't particularly want to join that group. It's not going to be that great because he's relying strictly on these guys because the top dogs play them, and that's just silly to me. You can play anything. Like, I've played a survival hunter a little bit, and I have all 20s. I also did it in season 1 as well. I didn't play it much in season 2, but I got very high up there and my damage was high, but survival hunter is listed as one of the worst Mythic Plus classes or Mythic Plus specs out there. Why? Well, it's not its damage that's the problem. It's the lack of playability that players don't want it. And people don't realize, oh, you're survival. Or even my buddy Friggy, you may have seen him in a couple videos. He plays Feral Druid. He plays it extremely well. And he's always up there competing with myself on damage and stuff like that. And he tells me he pugs groups and they kick him because they thought he was a boomkin. Feral's a really good pick. And in season 1, it was a god tier pick because of a rework or something they did. And it really buffed the crap out of Feral, and it was very, very strong. It was either that or season 2. I don't remember. But even in this season, it is very, very strong. And it's single target but got buffed. Although it is a bit more awkward to play, I believe, because you have a different type of build or something, or you really rely on cooldowns. I haven't touched it myself. But yeah, your class getting being F tier or whatever does suck. I mean, take Enhance, for example. This is the first time Enhance has been A tier for a PvE list. And it's crazy. Last season, Enhance wasn't very good, but you still saw it in the MDI because of Elbro from EU. He plays it at the maximum level. Like, this guy is a god. There's also Waves, who also plays it and does Raid to World First stuff. I think he still does. I haven't watched his stream in a while, but he's very, very good. They play Enhance at the top level, and they will push keys to as far as they can take it. And they always prove that Enhance can compete. And time again, it shows. But this time, Enhance is actually listed as an A tier spec. It's usually down below because of our hard cap AoE. It's terrible. But because of our new tier set and recent, I don't know about recent buffs, but we're very, very strong. And before this patch dropped of 10.2, they actually nerfed us. I think originally it was 5%. Then it moved up a little bit. I don't remember, but they had to hit us with a bat. And the reason why was because even though we were a 6-target cleave, we were competing with demon hunters doing massive AoE, right? They have no AoE cap. We do. And we were still competing with them on every single pull, so they had to nerf it. Now, it is a bit unfair, and I would have liked to have played that iteration, but it is what it is. So every season, Enhance has always been a bad option, but I've always played it as much as I can. Now, I'm nowhere near as good as Elbro or Waves or the other top Enhancement Shamans that I may not know. Like, those guys play it to an extreme level. I play it on more of a casual level of just doing keys with my friends and just seeing how far we can go. I would like to try and push, but it is what it is. But yeah, like, it doesn't matter what class you are. If you can play it and figure it out to its best potential, you can play on a competitive level with anything. It doesn't matter. Now, if you're talking, oh, I want to push 30s and 31s, well, that's a question of more, it's not the class, it's the player, right? That is going to extremely rely on your reaction time, your team comp, and everything, right? It's individual player skill with each and every class. So if you want to push those extremely high keys, go for it, try for it. But if you can't, pin perfect every single mechanic, then you're probably not going to get up there, because even past like a 25 or 26, you're getting one shot by mechanics if you're not using your defensive properly and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind. That's all I really want to talk about is, Mythic Plus comp, how Raider IO is affecting it. And I have heard, now don't quote me on this, but in War Within, there is potentially not going to be any affixes for Mythic Plus dungeons, aside from Tyrannical and Fortified. Now, that's only a rumor. I don't know if it's been proven true, but yeah, that'll be interesting. I do kind of like the affixes. It gives some classes more incentive to be picked, as well as other classes not to, such as Afflicted Week. If you're a demon hunter, you have a less likelihood of being picked because you have no dispel to deal with them. But let's say Incorporeal, if you're a warrior, there's a good chance you're not going to get picked either, because you can't deal with Incorporeal. You're the only class that literally cannot deal with that. I don't know if Shattering Throw still works. I haven't tried myself, but yeah, it's certain things like that that keep the meta moving. But yeah, that's all I want to talk about. But that is it for the video. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. Please let me know your thoughts on the IO, Mythic Plus comps and stuff like that, and maybe your pug journey or whatever you've done to do Mythic Plus and stuff. And let me know in the comments. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Laters!
Got
Not even fucking close.